Just get myself organized here because get this out of the way. So can you see the PowerPoint?
We sure can.
Okay, so I'm gonna get myself off of camera.
So
And,
Vicki, while you do that, I'm just going to say this is Stacy Haygreen. I'm the web content manager at the state board, and we all know each other. We're so lucky to have Vicki here today to talk about accessibility and specifically with PDF accessibility. The first thing I'm going to say out of the gate, however, is that everyone in the agency is going to, over the next year or so, be trained in accessibility practices, and likely much sooner than a year from now. This year, we're really focusing on that across the agency. And so when we go over this, it's for when you create documents, or if you support someone who creates documents, but also maybe if you can be helpful to someone for a question here and there, but you are not the gatekeepers. You are not responsible for making every single thing accessible before it gets posted to our website. We need the originators of the documents to be giving you accessible documents for you to post. So this is the first step in that process. I just want to make sure that that is clear, that we are not asking you to do the work for everybody else, but we are asking you to do your own work here. And so Vicki's going to go through this process. We have this training today, and then next week we have our first training with Equidox, and the following week is the second part 2 training with Equidox. And all training sessions are going to be recorded, so we can go back and revisit them, because there's lots of great information that we want to have available, in addition to the documents that Vicki has sent out and other resources that will be sent to everyone. This is going to be a great resource for us to have. Vicki, it's my understanding our training today is going to last for 2 hours. Is that right?
yes, and it may go shorter or longer depending on how many questions there are, how fast everybody. We're going to all do a workshop to get our Adobe set up, our workspace set up, so everybody is prepared to use it.
Okay, and how would you like to handle questions?
I need somebody to monitor the questions, or they can unmute and ask questions, either way.
Okay, I'll monitor the chat, but
Okay.
if people are comfortable, just asking you outright, that's great too.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to turn it over to you, Vicki.
Okay, so it's so awesome to be here with all of you today. Wonderful opportunity to share the basics of a PDF accessibility. Some of you I know, and some of you I don't, so I thought I would just share a little bit about myself. Of course, my name is Vicki Walton. I am the Web Accessibility Specialist, IT Assurance Tester at the State Board. In my role, I focus on conducting accessibility testing on websites and applications using assistive technology. I also provide training, which we're doing right now, and I do some video captioning processes. I am an alumna of Columbia Basin College, where I worked for 15 years. My journey began in 2004 as a student employee in information services. That was the staff IT department. And in 2007, I transitioned a full-time role as an IT technician too. So I'm a computer geek through and through. In October 2014, I was offered the opportunity to join a new established department called Assistive Technology Center. And in that role, I focused on software testing, document remediation, of which we're going to talk about today, video captioning, and providing technology accommodations to students. And now at SBCTC, I work alongside my supervisor, Monica Olson, with whom I share a strong passion for accessibility and supporting our disability community. So today, I just want to let you know that we're not going to go in and make a document accessible. I'm just going to share the basics of what makes a document accessible and give you a little input, and I'm going to do a lot of demonstrations. And because I'm going to be going in and out a lot, I'm not going to be in presentation mode. So our agenda today is to go over some definitions, where we go from here. What is a PDF file, Adobe Reader versus Adobe Acrobat Pro, Adobe Acrobat Workspace, and that's where we're all going to go in if you want to participate and set up your workspace. If you don't do it now, there is directions on how to do it in the PowerPoint. What constitutes an accessible PDF? What is OCR? What are tags? What is reading order? Metadata, document metadata, and running the accessibility checker, and then next steps. So I think it's really important that we're all on the same page. Some of you have heard these definitions before, but I think it's really important that we understand them. So if I could have somebody read what accessible is. Go ahead, Meredith.
Definitions: accessible. Accessible means that individuals with disabilities are able to independently acquire the same information, engage in the same interactions, and enjoy the same services within the same time frame as individuals without disabilities, with substantially equivalent ease of use.
Thank you. And if you want to read more on that, you can click on the link in the University of Montana resolution. Can I have somebody read assistive technology?
I'll do that. Assistive technology. They are either software or hardware that exist to enable people with permanent or temporary disabilities to use the computer.
Thank you. And when I talked about that, I test websites and applications using assistive technology, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it with screen readers. I'm doing it with voice command navigation. I'm doing it with keyboard only. And then I also test on mobile devices to make sure that VoiceOver and TalkBack work with the website or the applications that are being developed. Can I have somebody read about document remediation?
Yes. Document remediation, the process by which electronic documents, PDFs, are made accessible to screen readers, allowing the visual impaired to hear the auditory version of the information within the document.
Thank you, Christy. So today is about document remediation. We are taking a PDF and making sure that it is accessible so that when a screen reader user wants to navigate it, they're going to hear an auditory version of all the information that's in the document. So
Vicki, I just like to, I just want to thank you. We're really lucky that Vicki has made these standalone. I'm just going to point out when you say that there's a link to follow or to put this presentation in a safe place, because they have made this presentation for us as a standalone resource as well as for this training.
Yes, true. And there are resources at the end of the PowerPoint as well. So where do we go from here? So most of you are probably not going to create the content. And if you are, hopefully you're going to use Microsoft Word because it is made to be able to make most content accessible. So you're going to be using the core concepts of accessible formatting and running the accessibility checker in Word. Then, well, so what do you do next? Well, we're going to save it to a PDF. And most people don't like PDFs. I think they're really important. But then again, when you're the one that has to remediate them, you might say a few cuss words, but you don't have to do everything in Adobe. And that's something I want to make completely clear because Adobe is a little bit complicated. So you're going to save the PDF. Save it to a PDF. And so that's why we're going to get familiar with Adobe Pro, because it's the program that we can go in and show you all these tools for making a PDF accessible and to add the tags and make it work for especially screen readers. So what exactly is a PDF? Well, it's short for portable document format, and it's a versatile file format that gives people an easy, reliable way to present and exchange documents. In a PDF, it can contain links, buttons, form fields, audio, and visual. The PDFs are often used for sharing because they preserve the formatting of the original document, regardless of the device or platform the recipient is using. So as much as some people want it to go away, it's probably not going to go away. But we really need to encourage our people that is creating content to make sure that when they create their initial original document, that that is accessible. So there are two versions of Adobe Acrobat. There's the Pro and the Reader. So the Acrobat Pro, we have to have a license. And with Acrobat Pro, you can create, view, and edit content in the PDF while preserving the look. Here at SBCTC, we do have a paid license, as well as all of the Adobe products included in the Creative Cloud. Adobe Reader, on the other hand, only allows you to view PDFs. You can't edit them, and it is a free product and free to download. So everybody, that's why we need to use the Pro version, because that's where we're going to be doing all of our work. So Adobe has a workspace that I want to get you familiar with. There are three views. There's the Home view, the Tools view, and the Document view. The Home view shows up if you start Adobe Acrobat from the Start menu. That is the landing page. In this view, it gives you quick access to recent files, shared files, frequently used tools, to-do tasks, and storage accounts. The Tools view is really important because these are the tools that you're going to add to the tools pane to work on your PDFs. You're not going to use all of them, but we're going to go through to set your workspace up so that you can work in it. So anything that you want on your pane, you'll just click the Add button. Anything that's already open is already on your tasks pane or tools pane. It's a task tools pane. Excuse me. The document view is your working area. And you can open up multiple PDFs because they open in their own tag, and you can have as many open as you want, much like you can in a browser. So this is where you're going to do most of your work. And if you open up a PDF, open up Adobe from the PDF itself, this is the view that you're going to get. So there are two working spaces that we need to work with. And one of them is the navigation pane on the left-hand side, where we can get to the tags, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And then there's the tools pane that I talked about, where we put our tools that we use the most in this spot so we have easy access to them. So now what I'd like you to do is we are going to go in and do people want to go in and set up their workspace? Or do you want me to just show you?
Vicki, I think that you can just show us, but I wonder if you can switch in PowerPoint from slide view to presentation view, because we're seeing the slide view and it might be, it'll be bigger if we can see the entire slide, in a larger frame.
Okay, I will do that after I get done showing you how to set up your space.
Thank you so much.
Close out first to...
Vicki, I also want to let you know that my Adobe Pro updated, and it does not appear the same as yours does now. I liked the prior version more than I like the new version. The new version is not, as the edit and whatnot does not come up the same.
Okay, well, maybe going through a document will show you if it is the same or not, and we'll get it to be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you see my PDF?
Yes.
Okay, so the two things that we're going to want to make sure we're going to do is, this is the navigation pane, and a lot of times it's closed when you open up a PDF. So you're just going to click the right arrow to open it, and then you're going to have these navigation buttons. We want to make sure that you have the tags option loaded. So in the directions, and you'll see it, we're going to go to View, because most of the time it's not loaded. Show, Hide, then Navigation pane, and you're going to click on the accessibility tag, and that will allow it to be in here. So when I click on that, this PDF doesn't have any tags, and this is where we're going to be, this is what we need to look for. So if you're getting a document from somebody the first thing you could do is open up that document, and if it has no tags, then some work needs to be done on it. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's your job, but that just means that no tags have been placed in it. Then the other view is the task tools view, and you want to go in and find these are the key ones that you're going to use for working in a PDF: the edit PDF, the scan and OCR, prepare form, and accessibility. So all you do, whatever you want to put on your pane, you just click the add button, and then it'll show up here in this pane. And then you can go back to your document and you're ready to do some work. Any questions? Okay, I have to keep stopping and coming back. So let me get into presentation mode. See, this is why I don't like that. Okay, so
Another alternative to presentation mode is to close the ribbon and then make the page bigger.
yeah, I tried to make it as big as I could. So let me get out of presentation mode. Yes, ribbon. And let me make this smaller. And let you see it. So I lost my. Okay, so let me share this and see if that's bigger. How's that? Is that bigger for you?
It is bigger.
The reason I need it is because I have another window open that has all my documents in it, and it's easier to get to them.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, I think that works. It works fine for all of us, I bet.
Okay. So let me
Thank
get.
you.
Yes, you bet. Let me get back. Oh, wait. We were at where we're supposed to be. So this right here can show you the directions on how to set up your workspace. So that's in there for you to be able to do. So the next thing we want to talk about is the structure of an accessible PDF. So if you could just imagine that a PDF has layers that convey different types of information, these layers are the visual layer, the content layer, and the tags layer. So the visual layer is what you'll see on your screen and if it's printed out. If nothing has been done on the document, it is actually an image, just an image. And screen readers don't have access to this layer because it's just an image. Screen readers need tags to tell them what the content is, and we'll go over that soon, but an image wouldn't show them anything. So that PDF that I opened that showed no tags, a screen reader user would not get anything from that document. So they're left out of reading the content in that document. Then we have the content layer, and we're assuming now that an OCR has been done on the document. So now it is in an editable format, and this is where we can do all of our work. We can manipulate text, we can add tags. It's no longer an image. Then we have the tags layer, and this layer works in union with assistive technologies like screen readers. And this layer includes markup components called tags, which are similar in function to HTML markup tools, markup on websites. So, tags define the headings, the links, the lists, the tables, the paragraphs. Everything on that PDF has a tag to it that tells what it is. So is it a heading 1? Is it a heading 2? Is it a paragraph? Is it a table? Is it is there alt text on an image? So what makes an accessible PDF is that first and foremost, it cannot be an image. And that's why we need to run the OCR. We're going to go through all of these steps. It needs to have proper tags. Tags identify the type of content contained in the PDF, such as paragraphs, headings, lists, images, tables. Without tags, assistive technology will not be able to navigate the PDF. Reading order is another important aspect of an accessible PDF. The movement should be in a logical order, and reading order it only pertains to screen readers, really, and reading order for screen readers is top to bottom, left to right. And if the content is out of order, it's not going to be understandable to the screen reader user. Another important factor to an accessible document is the document metadata. And that consists of information about the PDF document, such as the title, the author, subject, keywords, copyright, and information. And we're going to go over later some key components that you need for the metadata, because not all of these are completely necessary. So first, we're going to cover OCR, optical character recognition, because we cannot work with a PDF if it is in an image. So optical character recognition is a technology that recognizes text within a digital image. With the OCR, you can extract text and convert scanned documents into editable, searchable PDF files instantly. So I'm going to go out and we're going to run I'm going to show you how to do run an optical character recognition. Can you see the PDF? So this is an image right now, and the reason I can tell is if I try to select text, I'm not able to select anything individually. Another good key is this cursor. If you can see it, can you see me moving it? It is a crosshair cursor, which tells me that I can't select anything. It's just going to make me keep doing this, and I can't do anything with this document. So to be able to do an OCR, we're going to run the scan and OCR tool. So when you click on that, it opens up a toolbar, and you're going to click on recognize text, and you're going to click the down arrow, and you're going to choose on this in this file. Another toolbar opens, and you're going to click on recognize text, and it's going to run through the OCR process. So now you can see that my cursor has changed. It has changed into an I-beam, which makes it so that I can select. And sometimes this takes a while to happen, so I might not, yeah, see, it's still in the process of doing it for me to select text. Sorry, it does this sometimes where you have to wait for a while for it to engage. Come on. There we go. Now I can select individual text, and that means an OCR has been run on it and it is no longer an image. And the I-beam cursor shows up. So now I know I can select text. So that's how you run an OCR. It's very simple, and that's one of the reasons why it's nice to have this OCR tool, because you're going to be using it a lot. Okay, now we're going to go back to the PowerPoint.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Vicki. Does anyone have
Yes.
any questions for Vicki about that part of it? Because I do know that some of our very old documents are scanned, and if that's the case, you'll need to know how to do the steps that they just outlined. So does anyone have any questions? I'm going to take that as it's very clear to everyone, and we're aware, Vicki, that you've provided us with the tools to review.
Yes.
So I feel very comfortable. I'm thrilled to have that as a resource. Thank you very much.
I did have directions in here for you to run that. So we already went on that one. So right here, how to run an OCR. So there are steps in here for you.
Thank you.
One thing I do want to mention that you can work in Adobe Acrobat for some things, but if you're going to be working in Equidocs, Equidocs will run an OCR when you upload the document. So now we're going to talk about another aspect that makes a PDF accessible, and that is tags. Tags add behind the scenes coding to the PDF, and every tag identifies the type of content and stores some attributes about it. In addition, tags also help arrange the document in a hierarchical order. As I said, tags are similar to HTML code. So if you have a heading, you're going to use an H tag. If you have an image, you're going to use a figure tag. If you have a paragraph, you're going to use a P tag. If you have a form, you're going to use a form tag. So, but we're going to go over this so that you're not totally lost. And here is some examples that I already went through. So a paragraph will get a P tag. A form will get a form tag. Headings will get either one H1 or H2, depending on where the heading falls in the document. Figure tag, a table tag gets lots of them. They get the overall table tag, then they get the table row, the table header, and the table cell. Okay, now it is time for a demo. I'm going to show you 2 ways to add tags to a PDF. You can either use the auto tag or you can do a manual tag. So we're going to do both. Okay, can you see the PDF?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there are 2 ways to add a tags. So the first way is to do an auto tag. So you're going to click on the tag on the left-hand side of the navigation, and it shows no tags. So what you're going to do is you're just going to click on the options button, and you're going to click on auto tag. Now you have tags. Now, let me point out to you, so you can navigate this document now just to see if the tags are in order. But you can see here that participating vendors shows up first and then goes over to location, but that's not right because location should be first and then all the content under it should be read out first. Let's go one more step further and I'll show you the reading order. You can see that and we'll talk about reading order more, but the image is the 10th step that's taken. So that is not in reading order, correct reading order. These 2 are not in correct reading order. So those will need to be fixed, but this is what the tags panel will look like. I'm going to take those out now and show you the manual way to add text. Does anybody have any questions about that? I know these tags look foreign to you, but you will get used to knowing what to look for. So to do a manual tag, you will open up the reading order panel, and there's 2 settings here. There's the page content order, which shows the reading order numbers, and then there is the structure type, and you're going to want the structure type. So you can see that it automatically did some tagging on its own, but it's not correct because this is a heading, that's a heading, these are headings, but they're marked as paragraphs. So what you'll do is you'll just draw a box around it and you'll place a heading 1 on it. You'll draw a box around this one and you'll put heading 2 on it. And that's how you do it. And this one, I would just take this and make sure it's 1 paragraph. And sometimes you have to do it more than once to get it to work. There you go. So each content needs to be in its own individual tag. So like down here, these need to be headings. So you would just change it that way. So that's the manual way to do it. And if there were no tags at all, you would have to do this for each content. You would have to highlight this and make it a figure tag. You would have to highlight all of the paragraphs and the images that are here. So that is how you do a manual. And that's how you can also easily fix any tags that are not correct. Any questions?
What would the tags be for it said span? Should those, is there a table tag or I'll go back.
Oh, I took it out. Let me do
There.
a manual. Okay, so this is something that you don't need to worry about. Doing the auto tag in Adobe sets up the structure different. So you'll have sections, and I don't see a span anywhere, but the figure tags, they will need to have alt text
I
added,
see a
but
table, I see a table tag.
yes, the table tag, yes,
Is
for
that it?
sure. So you have the table rows. And then inside the table rows, you have the header, each headers, and then you will have the table data. So
Okay.
each content has its own tag to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Somehow when it said span, I was confused because it looked like it wasn't tagging correctly.
Yeah, and span is a container. It's not a tag.
Okay.
So, and it depends on what you're working in, what platform. The thing about Adobe, Equidocs is they're pretty clear about the tags. Adobe sometimes can give you, like, if I was going to do this in Common Look, I wouldn't have sections. Everything is in its own individual part. So it just depends on what program you're working with. If you're going to, but these are just containers. Like this section, it's just a container that holds all of this content in it. This one too, it holds all of that content in it. If I really wanted to move them out, I could just move them up to their own little, out of that part, and they'd still show up properly. But these are just containers that hold that content in. So, but you don't have to do all that work, because the screen reader doesn't care if it's in a container or not. What the screen reader cares about is that the information is tagged properly, like a heading 2. So they can navigate by headings if they want to, much like we would do perusing a page just to see where we want to read at. A screen reader can do the same. A screen reader can navigate by headings. It can navigate by buttons. It can navigate by lists. It can navigate multiple ways for a screen reader user to get an idea what the document looks like to them through the screen reader. Any more questions?
I'll just say a comment. This is Stacy. And Vicki, you're so good with navigating through all the different tools. What I will say to the folks for whom this is new information, try not to be overwhelmed, because it becomes very logical very quickly when you can get in there and practice. And this is where we're talking about, if the document itself was created to be accessible before it was turned into a PDF, you'll grow to love that, right? All of this stuff is Vicki's showing us examples of what to do when everything has to be done. But a lot of times, things are done sort of part way, wouldn't you say, Vicki?
Yes, and you have to remember that you're only going to use Adobe if you want to look to see if it has tags. Really, truly, you're going to be using Equidocs, and Equidocs has a much simpler format for identifying tags. And you'll see that when we have our training. We're basically using Adobe Acrobat because I'm trying to convey to you what a PDF needs to be accessible, and Adobe is the only place really to do that.
Well, and for example, right now we don't have Equidocs, so I do think it's really important that that all of us have an understanding of how to use Adobe for this process.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I will reiterate, as someone who had to learn from scratch a long time ago, that it's overwhelming at the beginning, but it's very logical very quickly.
It is, and I have tons of cheat sheets for you guys if you want them, that explain these tags. And just remember, a tag is placed on the type of content it is. If you relate, so a P tag is a paragraph. A figure tag is an image. A table tag is the table. So it becomes quite easy after you learn, and you're not really going to have too much trouble once you get the hang of knowing, okay, this is an image. It's going to have a figure tag. I know I'm going to have alt text on that image. The tables, luckily, are easier to work with in Equidocs, but this table was tagged fairly accurately, which was nice. Sometimes tables are probably the most difficult ones to work on. But yes, don't panic. And you know, I'm here to answer any questions if you have them along the way that you're doing your work. Any other questions? Okay, so let me close that and go back into the PowerPoint. So we went through and did the demo of adding tags manually or auto tagging. And now we're going to turn to reading order. So reading order is just what it says. It's the order in which content is read out. Making the reading order of a PDF document accessible for assistive technology users is not as straightforward as you might think. As you saw, some of the reading order was out of reading order, so we need to change that. At its core, the reading order in which info is read is crucial to screen reader users' overall experience, and the steps we take during remediation, remember we talked about what document remediation was, ensure that the information is conveyed how the author intended. So now I want to give you some tips about reading order. There is no undo button to reading order. If you make a mistake, you have to start all over again. So it's important to save your document often or make a copy of it. And then if you make a mistake, it'll revert back to where it was saved the last time. Another good tip is to make sure that your page view is set to single page view. There are times that you're going to open up a PDF and the tags are just a mess. And it would just be easier to clear the page structure. So you're going to use the clear the page structure button, but you only want to do it for a single page. If you had a 100-page document and you cleared the entire document, you're going to have to either auto tag that document or do it yourself. So you want to make sure that it's only that clear page structure button is only set to a single page view. Now we are going to, let me go in and review the.
Vicki, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
The single page does that define in PowerPoint a single slide as well? So is it the same if so a slide would be a single page as well, because it would be captured as an individual page.
Yes, whatever's showing on your screen is the page.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So remember what I talked about when I was in showing you how to look at the tags. So there's two settings. There's the page content order, which shows the reading order number. And then there is the structure type that shows the tags. So when you go in and you open up the reading order window, depending on what shows up, and this one, it's the page order content. If you're not worried about the reading order, then you need to change it to the structure type. But now we're talking about the reading order, so we want the page content order to show up. And I'm going to now go in and demonstrate for you how to work with the reading order. Okay, so you see the PDF? First thing we're going to do is we're going to check to make sure that there are tags, which there are. Now see, these have a different, this one has an art container, a section container, and a division container, and then everything else is under the division container. Those containers don't mean anything. You don't have to worry about those. What you do need to worry about is the actual tags themselves. So we're going to just navigate and see how the reading order is going to go. Hey, it looks good. Did I not? Now that's supposed to be an incorrect reading order. Let me go out again really quick, sorry. Okay, this is it. All right, sorry. You know, technology, it's a love-hate relationship. Now I can't get, there we go. Okay, so let me close this first. So we've opened up and we see that it has tags, which is great. Now we need to look at the reading order. So we are going to open up the reading order pane, which is under the accessibility tool. And you're going to go to reading pane and it's going to pop up another window so you can move it over. So the setting is correct. It wasn't on the tags setting where the structure types, we need it on the page content. So you can look at the numbers 1, 2, 3. Well, the image is 63. That can't be read. That needs to go in logical order. So I need to go from the heading 1 to the image and then over to 2, 3, 4, 5. So we will have to move that. And then you see here this heading of dates and ticket prices is 7 reading order, and the paragraph below it is 6. So we need to change that as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the reading order from the reading order window. And now we have all of the reading orders in view, and they're also numbered so that you don't lose your way. So we're just going to navigate that panel. And we hit 6 and 7, and they're not in the right order. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take 7 and we're going to drag it up above 6, and it's going to recalculate. And now it's in the right reading order. 63 is way down there, so it would take me going and moving that up. All the way here. Now it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now this is out of order because when you get on location, location should read the content under it, but it's going to take me over to participating vendors. So we will need to reorder those as well. So you kind of just get the idea of seeing how the reading order works. And this is the pane that you're going to work on. And these are blank images or content, like a line or something that you don't have to worry about. They're just empty tags, basically. Do you have any questions on reading order? And now, if I want to clear the page structure, this would be why it's important to have just the single page view, because I'm going to clear the page and it's going to take all the tags out. So now I have to either do the auto tag or tag it myself. Any questions?
Vicky,
Yes.
so I don't know if I missed it, but when you put in the order number, right? So like the ticket pricing, if you're gonna change the one below it to 44, right? If we drag it, the number changes or the content changes?
No, just the number, the reading order. Let me
Okay.
go back in and show that to you so that you're clear.
Okay. Thank you.
So we are going to open up the reading order panel. and we are going to look at it. So each one is set. You have your 1, and it corresponds with the content on the page. 2 corresponds with the content on the page. But we went to 6. So we went 6. Let's go here, 6. 6 needs to be read before 7, so we need to change the order. So all I do is drag 7 up, and it will automatically change it on its own. So not only is the number changed in the order panel, it's also changed in the reading order. So now it will go 5, 6, 7. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
You betcha. I think Emily is not on mute. So back to the
Emily, if you have a question for Vicky, if that's what you're trying to say, and there are audio issues, just type it in the chat and I'll read it for her. Thanks, Vicky.
You betcha. Okay, so we looked at the reading order pane, and here is the steps to take care to do that. So that's also in the PowerPoint for you. Now, the last thing that makes a document accessible is the metadata. And metadata refers to the searchable fields within the document's properties that identify the document, what the document is about. Metadata should be accurate and specific as possible to make it easy to find through searching. The main keys that you need for metadata to be accessible, the other content is okay, but you need a title, you need to set the initial view, and you need to set the language. So we are going to do that now. And I found in Equidocs that you can put in the title and the language in Equidocs, but they do not have the option to set the initial view. So you will have to set it in Adobe. And those are critical, and I'll explain why. So we're gonna go into the metadata, and we're gonna go to File, and you have directions in the PowerPoint. Properties, and whatever tab you were on last is where it's going to land, but we're going to go to the beginning. And we need to have a title. There's no title in here. So what would happen if there's no title, so nothing could be read out. So we're going to add a title. Then we're going to go to the Initial View tab, and down on Windows Options show, we need to set this not to the file name, but to the document name. And the reason is critical. If you've downloaded PDFs before and you see gibberish in the file name, it's got weird numbers and stuff, and it doesn't really explain what the PDF is. That's why we need to set the title document. And this particular one will read out the title, Rock On DC Music Festival Brochure. If we left it as the file name is up here, and it's 5 PDF document properties PDF. Well, that doesn't say anything. That's my naming for that PDF, but it's not going to help the end user know what this document's about. So we definitely always need to set the document title. And that's one initial view that I'm going to talk to Equidocs about first as well, because this is an important setting that we need to make sure we set. And the last option is under Advanced, and we need to make sure the language is English. Unless you're doing another language, then you need to set that particular language on that PDF. Any questions?
I have a comment. This is Stacy. The document title is especially important for the website. As they noted, if we don't add a title, the file name will show. And as you all know, we use lowercase separated by hyphens for our file names. So on the tab, when someone, if a PDF opens in a new tab, what that tab reads is a file name, right?
Yep.
And so, and not only for screen readers and assistive technology, it's just clarity in general, right? It's so important to have the title defined instead of just having the file name display.
Absolutely.
Vicki, Emily did have a question for us, and it was about the tag order. Could we, when you're ready to go back to that, could we revisit it real quickly?
Absolutely. Let me get that up and we'll. Okay. Okay, are
So
there.
Emily's document may or may not be exactly the same as yours, but she said on her doc, the paragraph 7 is location. Do the subordinate paragraphs, Mullen, Washington, need to be number 8?
Gosh, I don't know what her is. Is she using the document I sent all of you?
Yeah.
Location. Well,
So,
okay, in that case, let me open the
so I think
panel.
location was tagged as a paragraph instead of the header. So location, if I understand correct, and you'll correct me, right, Vicki, that location needed to be changed for Emily. She'll need to change location to the heading, the H2,
Yes,
and then the mall in Washington would be the paragraph there.
yes. And in that case, well, see, this one was first. These two headings were a paragraph at first.
Okay.
So they need to be set at headings. So you just draw the box around them and put heading 2.
And then that's a list below.
And that is their, well, it's not really a list, it's a paragraph. You could
okay.
actually take this and make it all one paragraph so it's
I
in
see.
one unit.
Thank you
But
for the
these
reminder.
are a list and they need to be in proper list format.
Okay.
So does that answer your question, Emily?
Emily hasn't responded, but
Yeah,
if it
she could.
doesn't, I'm happy to work with Emily
There's a
afterwards.
thumbs up on, she's
Oh,
doing a
good.
thumbs
Okay.
up. And then if we go into the reading order, you know, let's say 7 was down here, all we would do is go find 42 and move it up to the number that it needs to be at, and then that would also shift. So like we did with 6. So 6 was not, so 7, we're just going to take 7 and we just shift it up 1, and that recalibrates and puts it in the right reading order. It doesn't change the tag structure. It doesn't change anything about it. It just changes the reading order so that when a screen reader navigates that document, they're going to read that content in the order that it's supposed to be. So when a screen reader lands on dates and ticket prices, it's going to hear heading 2, dates and ticket prices.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And if a screen reader lands on lists, it's going to say list with 5 items or 4 items. So the screen reader is always going to know what they've landed on. Does that help too? Let's see. That. All right, we went over the metadata. And here is the steps on how to set those properties. Like I said, title and language you can set in Equidocs, but not the initial view. And that is something that I would highly recommend that you take note on. Now, when I talk to Equidocs, I'm going to mention that to them and they may change that. But right now you're going to have to go into Adobe and make sure that that is changed. So now our last step is going to be running the accessibility checker. We've OCR'd the document. It's no longer an image. We have added tags to it, to the proper tags to the kind of content that it needs. If it's a heading, it needs to have a heading tag. If it's a paragraph, it's a P tag. We have set the metadata. We're pretty much done with the document. Now we're going to run an accessibility checker because we want to make sure we didn't miss anything. So we are going to run an accessibility check. Okay, so to run the accessibility checker, we're going to go into the accessibility tool again, and we are going to select accessibility check. A window of options is going to pop up, and you're pretty much just going to leave it at the default settings. And because you want to create a report as well, and I'll explain the report is going to be in an HTML format, and you can change where you want it to go. I have mine set to go into my documents folder. So in addition to, okay, well, I'll do this first before I talk. So we're going to start the check. And now the accessibility checker has placed some information in the left navigation panel. So under documents, it says it's showing 3 issues. So we're going to open that up with clicking on the arrow. And there are 2 here that have a blue question mark, and it says needs manual check. Well, those are always going to show up that way because those need to have a manual check. The reading order and the color contrast can't be done by the accessibility checker. They are manual checks. So those will always come up this way. But they say that the title is a failure. Well, we went in and put the title in. And sometimes you're going to get stuff like this. So see, we have a title right here. But we can fix it. We're just going to right click on it. And we're going to go fix. And now it has passed. So down here on the alternative text, we see we have one issue. Oh, an image does not have alt text on it. So we need to add the alt text on that. So we are going to right click that as well. And click fix. And a window is going to pop up to let us add the alt text. Now, there may be more images in a document, and you will see how many images need to have alt text by the image notation, and then the arrow will not be grayed out. You can continue to add alt text to all of them before you save and close. So we have added alt text to this image. Decorative, let's say this line up here actually got a tag on it that we don't need. So we would mark it as decorative because a screen reader doesn't really need to know that that line is there. But the image is important to the music festival because it's showing that there's a band on the stage. So we do want to make a screen reader aware that there is an image there. So we're put it in, we're going to say close, and it has now passed. So we have gone through all of Adobe's accessibility checker content and fix the title and fix the image. But now we need to go in and look at the...
Hey.
Yes. Miriam? Or Marianne?
Okay, yeah, I'll text it to you.
Oh, she just has it muted.
Yep, no problem.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, bye.
So now I'm going to go in and show you the readout that is going to be in HTML format that is going to open in your default web browser. So along with the report that we saw in Adobe and we went in and fixed things, you also get an accessibility report. If you don't want that, it's okay, but we always do it because it's good to have as a record that you have gone through and done this, but Equidocs does not give you that record. I don't think. I'd have to check on that. I'm sorry. So you have your file names. Then you have your summary of needs manual check 2. We already know that the reading order and the color contrast here needs a manual check. And then down here, oh, we have a skipped item. So let's go find out where that is. Skipped. Oh, the summary. We forgot the table summary. Tables must have a summary for accessibility. So I don't really know what a summary is. So I'm going to click on summary and it's going to open up and tell me how to go in and put a summary in for that table. So you would have to go back into your document, your PDF, and go through these steps, fix the reading order, and find to edit this table summary to add that. And then you should run your accessibility, you should run your accessibility checker again to see if that's been solved. But everything in here, passed. So apart from the summary that we forgot, and I'm not really quite sure why I'm going to show you something because I want to show you what happens with it, that summary. I was a little puzzled by that. Sorry, let me get my folder back. I'm going to show you what it looks like because it didn't indicate to us that we needed to worry about the summary, and that was frustrating to me. Come on. Okay. So we're going to need to run the accessibility checker again so I can show you. Okay, so we're going to run it again. So we fixed that, but the table doesn't show that there's even an indication of anything wrong. So it's really important to open each one of these up and make sure that but see, it says that it was skipped, but it didn't give me a warning. So that's why it was missed. If you don't open up each one of these, then you might miss some content. So it's important to go through all of those. And then we see that we need to have a summary. And if you right click, it doesn't give you, it just tells you how to explain it. But you have to go into the reading order and go click on the table. You go this table, draw a box around the table, and then it should let me go into table editor and put the summary in, but it's not right now. So, technology, it's never fun. But be sure you do open up everything. But that extra report will also tell you, oh, something got skipped, but I wasn't aware of it. So you have that double protection of having the accessibility checker information in Adobe itself, and then you have that exported document that shows you everything that was done or what's been missed. All right.
Vicki, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
When I get a document or I create a PDF from a document that I've already had made accessible, right? So I create a document using, for example, if I'm using one of our templates, they're set up to be accessible. I fill it out and then I run the accessibility check at the end to make sure it's okay. I convert it to a PDF. When I open that PDF, I'm going to be honest, the first thing I do is run the accessibility check. I know you did this last because we had to do the OCR thing and all of the steps for it. But when I get a document and it's not an image, right? It hasn't been scanned. I just go right to the accessibility check. I don't go through all the manual steps before. Is that a best practice that I can continue, or do you advise against it?
No, if it's going to tell you everything wrong with your document, that's a good place to start. Okay. I mean, I only showed you, this presentation was to show you all of the content that you need to make sure that there's tags, that the reading order is fixed, and you do have to go into the reading order because the accessibility checker won't check that for you. Yeah. And then you have to do the document properties because they don't get checked really well. The title did, but So yeah, I've done that before just to give me an idea what I'm going to be working with. So yeah, running the accessibility checker at the beginning isn't a problem.
Okay. And then I
Especially
just
if it
go in
gives
and
you
I fix it
clues.
based upon that.
What's that?
That I just typically go in and fix things based upon what feedback I get from the accessibility checker. I will say is what's the idiom? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you start with a document that before it became a PDF was made accessible or as accessible as possible, it saves a ton of time on this end.
Oh, absolutely. That is the key to accessibility. And that's why, I'm really hoping that there will be a mandate that says you have to create accessible content or it's not going to go on the website.
Yep, I agree.
Because you guys are not the remediators. Now, yes, you can do a little bit to, if the least you can do is, I would say the least you could do is, OCR it, but that's not enough because if there's no tags, it's not going to be any good anyway to a screen reader user. So the least you could do is run OCR and add manual tags, but that doesn't necessarily make it accessible either because you have to worry about, are the tags right? Is the reading order correct? So, but yeah, however you do it that works for you is fine as long as you catch everything. And you follow those, the key to an accessible document. Let's see
and I'm just going to point out, Christy made a comment in chat that we aren't supposed to post PDFs to the website anymore or limited. And that's absolutely correct. Remember, we had a push in the summer and the fall to move away from turning everything into a PDF, right?
Yeah.
We really want to keep it the source document for which it was created. So if you have a Word document, there's no reason to turn it into a PDF. Just make sure it's accessible as Word. And for a lot of instances, we can get away from having a separate document altogether if it has to do with a meeting, for example, an agenda. That could just be a web page. We want to, have more and more content made as a web page. However, for business practices, we do know that it's necessary to create documents, and some of them, a large number of the PDFs that we have on our website are given to us. And so that is part of our challenge, right? A lot of the documents come to us because they're part of a meeting and they may be a PowerPoint and whoever the author was at a different school turn it into a PDF. So that's where we need to get to the point where we tell folks, only give us documents that are already accessible.
Yes.
But
go ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay, Vicki. But in the course of our business practices, there are some things that are turned into PDFs and that they're being posted on our website. And so that's where this training is really helpful, to make sure that when we have to have a PDF, it is made to be accessible.
Yes. Yes. And like I said, this is just an overview of PDF. The key to accessibility is the original document is accessible first. And then if you have to go into the PDF, at least you know what you need to look for. But this process is a lot easier in Equidocs, as you'll find. But what level you use Equidocs is going to be up to your web editors, but yeah.
Well, and I look at this as the same kind of training that everyone will be getting at the agency, because we all need to make sure that whatever we're creating is accessible. And so this is not necessarily training so much for you as a web editor. This is training for you as an employee at the state agency who creates documents or supports someone who creates documents. And it's supposed to be a helpful tool. I'm going to reiterate that you're not the gatekeeper for everything that's been created, but I know the reality of the situation is a lot of times that falls on you. So this is meant to be a tool that you can revisit that they've provided for us to have as a standalone document, and also tips. So, but this is just the beginning of the accessibility training that's going to be happening at the agency this year.
Yeah, now we've already worked with HR. We gave them the accessible document creation training, which included Microsoft Word from the micro courses. Well, we did our own training, but you can go in and get that. But then we have to do the PDF part of it, because people need to understand the complexities of a PDF and why the original document needs to be as accessible as possible. Now, there are some things that you can't make completely accessible in Word. Tables are not something that you can really make 100% accessible in the Word document itself, but when it's exported to a PDF, then you can add the right tags to the table. And I've left some resources for you to look at. You know, you're always welcome and should probably participate in the Canvas micro courses, because they will really help you with all the different Word products, PowerPoints, Word, Excel, PDFs, Outlook, because even our emails should be accessible. You know, if you send a picture to somebody and you haven't added alt text to it, they're not going to get anything from that picture. So the best way to do it is to add alt text to the image, but also put that content in a text format as well. So many options, versions of giving that content out will help various users. So I am actually quite done. Our next, what the next steps are is Stacy explained that we're going to be having Equidox training. The first one's on Thursday, February 13th, and the second one is February 19th. And then you'll get their perspective of how to remediate a PDF in their platform. And you know what? I think I get to let most of you go early unless there's more questions. I didn't realize it was going to go so fast.
Vicki, this has been really wonderful, and I really appreciate your expertise in sharing with everyone this process. If folks have questions afterwards when they're going through your document, is it okay that they reach out to you through email?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I'm here for, is to assist and help. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't want you guys to feel like you have to be alone in this. I mean, I know I have my specific job and you have your specific job, but we are here to help and assist you in any way we can. So don't be shy to reach out.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hope all of you have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you.
participating, and you get some time back now. Better to be done early than late.
Correct. Okay, take care.
You'll send that recording out when it's processed?
I absolutely will.
All right, cool. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
It was
Vicki.
wonderful.